Hello and welcome to this episode of Trash to Track. Now in this episode we're going to be looking at this Hornby Railways diesel dock shunter, which is in absolutely mint condition. I've never seen a dock shunter in such good condition complete with this box. Now I'm not sure what version this is, so I'm going to get it out of the box. Now what do we reckon? Do we reckon it's going to be red or black? I've got no idea at this point. It's black. It's a black one, which is common. Now the instruction manual, which it's also got, says that this is 21st of January 1976. This model is almost exactly 10 years older than me. Now Robert sent this to me. He said he bought it mint off eBay, which it is mint off eBay, but it doesn't run and nobody can get it running for him. So I like a challenge. It is missing its retaining screw out the top, so the body shell is loose, so I have to find one of them. But other than that, it is probably the best condition one of these I've ever seen. And indeed, I've never actually seen a box version before either. So everything looks complete. I can't see anything wrong with it at the moment. So let's put it on the track and see if it would do anything. So I put it on the track with some controller leads, and Robert is correct. It is totally dead. There's no signs of life. The bulb isn't even lighting up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rest it on the insulation tape roll here and put power direct to the brushes. And the motor spins over and the bulb's working, so at least I haven't got to look for a new bulb. So there's obviously something stopping power going to the brushes. So I'm going to strip this down and see what we can find. It's a very simple, simplistic model, 4-wheel pickup. There's the pickups there to the insulated side. Everything looks to be in very, very clean condition. The brushes have hardly been used. And then I spot a problem. This solder connection on here is broken. Look, the solder joints come off. So that may explain why it's a non-runner, but it doesn't explain why nobody else noticed that and could get this running for Robert. Surely it's not going to be a simple thing as a broken solder joint. So I'm going to take it apart anyway, and I take the cover off the motor. There's the magnet and the ring field parts that create the magnetic field around the armature. The magnet is extremely strong, so it may have been remagnetised in the past. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a mark on here. I draw a number 3 across the top. This helps me when I reassemble the model to put the magnet and that back in the right way around. Probably not the way everybody does it, but it's the way I do it. So I remove the magnet and remove this circuit board thing, if you call it. There's I have to remove these end clips, which have a small bearing cup and a ball bearing in them. Without removing the end caps with the bearings in, you can't actually get the armature out. It's held in place by those. So the metal is spring metal on the end there, and you use the tweezer nose pliers and a screwdriver just to unclip it, and it allows on both ends, and it allows me to remove the armature. The armature, the commutator itself is very dirty. It's covered in a black substance. Like I said, the brushes, as you can see on the top there, the brushes are in very, very good condition. But I don't know what this is on the commutator. Now, my usual method of cotton bud and meths was bringing some of the dirt off, but it was not cutting through it like I was hoping it would. It was really, really stubborn stuff. So I had a bit of a think, and I wanted to get this back clean. So I had a look in the toolbox, and I've got a pot of Brasso, so I'm going to use this and try and polish up this commutator. Now it is good stuff, and it will bring the brass back up lovely and shiny, but it can leave a residue, a powdery residue. So once I've cleaned it all with Brasso, I leave it for a couple of minutes, then go over it with a cotton bud that's soaked in WD-40 contact cleaner. And as you can see here, it took a while. I'll speed this footage up. But eventually I do clean the commutator up and it comes up shining like a new pin. I really don't know what that black stuff was. I don't think it was wear or oxidisation, because like I said, the brushes are not worn hardly at all. But there was definitely something on it. So now I'm going to start rebuilding the motor. Put the armature back in, followed by the 2 side pieces. Now the side pieces wouldn't sit correctly from the top. I couldn't get them to seat right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this together, and I'm going to put the armature back in. I'm going to replace the ball bearing cup. So I'm going to put some small amount of oil on the end first, and then those ball bearings and the bearing cups can go on, followed by the metal spring plates that hold it all in place. So that the armature's in there. There's the little ball bearing that goes into that cup, and then it sits on the end of the motor shaft. Whoops, it's fallen off there. So I'll just push that back on. Putting a little bit of oil on it will help keep that bearing in place, that ball bearing. And then the spring metal clips are replaced over the ends. Now this was a bit fiddly. It had to be lined up exactly because there is an indentation in that metal for the bearing cup to sit in. And it wouldn't quite go on. It was very, very strong, this metal. But with a little bit of persuasion, working with the screwdriver and trying to line it up. I needed 3 hands to do this. Probably making more of a meal out of it. It didn't help that that steel plate kept getting stuck to the end of the screwdriver either. But eventually I get it in. I did try and put it over the top, but it wouldn't fit. It does need to be pushed or coerced around this way. And eventually it clips into place. And I did that on the other end just to secure the armature. And then I'm going to turn the motor bogie upside down and remove the base keeper. By removing 2 screws, the base keeper becomes loose. This allows me to remove the wheels for cleaning and also access to that pickup spring. And when the base plate's removed, those motor side, the sides for the Ringfield magnet thing will now sit flush. I could not get them to sit properly with that keeper plate on. So I'm just cleaning the wheels and axles. Now these are very clean. I'm not sure if this is from the factory. There is a little bit of fluff wrapped around that axle, which I've just removed. So I don't know if this is this clean from the factory or whether somebody has overhauled this in the past. All I do know is there's nothing in the way of lubrication on this model whatsoever. The axles and gears on this are bone dry. So now I've got those seated. I've put the magnet back in. I put the top cover back on. I'll just get this wiring out of the way. Put the top cover back on. I've also, don't forget when you reassemble to slide that the brush retainer back in. That will only go in one way. Make sure it's the end, the brushes are the end above the commutator. And then the nut is put back through and this screws into the thread that is on the cover on the other side. So that was screwed in. Well, it was when I could get it to line up. And then checking which side is insulated, I put the wheels back in the motor bogie. You got to make sure the insulated side is on the side with that pickup. And then I'm going to use some Pico Electrolube to lubricate the axles because this is conductive. It will lubricate the wheels in the metal chassis whilst also providing a good base for electrical conductivity. And once that's all in place, the base keeper's put back on. So once all the wheels and the keeper plate was screwed back in with the 2 screws we took out earlier, I put a tiny amount of flux on the bit of brass on the brush housing, and then I tin it with a bit of solder ready to re-solder this connection that's come loose. I just wanted to tin it with some more modern solder so that old 1970s stuff had something to stick to. So just a tiny amount there just to tin the brass, which I also cleaned with Brasso just to remove any old residue. And then holding that in place, just a touch with the soldering iron, reattaches that solder joint that had come off. So now that's all back together. I'm going to put the brushes in. Now in hindsight I should have put these in before putting the retainer back through that motor, because putting them in from underneath is very fiddly. It's not impossible, but it's not ideal either. But using my long nose pliers and some perseverance, I managed to get the springs to get onto the brushes and get the brushes back in place. And then once the brushes were in place, you have to put that brass piece there with the wire on it that goes on the insulated side of the motor. So once everything's in place, this is fiddly. This was fiddly to get that back in now. I was conscious I didn't want to break any more solder joints. So it did take a little while, a little bit of persuasion. On my own models of this age, I do away with this brass plate and solder the wire directly to the brush. Small amount of lubrication on those gears because it's metal on metal. And I used Bell 106 grease just on the worm gears there, and that was spread through the drivetrain. And this should now, by all rights, this motor bogie should work. But with the battery test, there was nothing again, and I'm thinking, well, the battery's on its way out anyway. I know that, so I'm going to put it on the test track and use the leads from a controller. So I put it on the test track, put it on the leads on there, and there's nothing. It's still dead. So Robert was right. It is not fixable. Maybe something else is wrong because that solder joint's on. But it was when I was testing it on its side. When I applied power to that middle solder joint there, where the spring pickup is, it worked. When I put power to the actual pickup wire, nothing happened. So it wasn't transferring power from the wheels to that solder tab. So I removed the base keeper plate again and removed that spring pickup. It is only on there, it's a friction fit. And when I take it off, there is some corrosion on there. It's gone that horrible green colour that copper sometimes goes. So I did try and clean it with some contact cleaner, and I also, as you can see here, cleaned it up with some 2000 grit Rat and Dry just to polish it all up. Refitted it, but again, it wouldn't work. It just wasn't making a good enough connection for reliable running. So you'll see here that just testing it again. This is having been cleaned and it's still the same. So I'm going to do away with that spring clip. And what I did was I put the motor bogie in my loco cradle, and using some 0.5mm brass wire, I bent up a new pickup wire for it, which you'll see in a minute. There it is. And I'm going to solder that directly to that solder tab. So I'm just going to touch it with the soldering iron there so that the solder flows on it. Wait for it to solidify. And there we go. So it's got new pickups now. So I'm just going to have to... I did bend these up beforehand, but they will need slight adjustment so they're making good contact with the wheel backs. And I'm hoping that will cure this, and maybe that's what was wrong with this, apart from that dodgy solder joint. Maybe that's why nobody else could get this running, because it all looked complete, but actually it wasn't. And then testing it with a battery, look, it fires straight into life. So there was two problems with this model. One was that broken solder joint, and secondly, the pickup wire, the spring had corroded to such an extent that it wasn't providing power anymore. And when I put the model on the test track now with a battery, it is a lovely, smooth and a very quiet runner, to be honest, considering it's a it's a Hornby Railways branded, but it's a Triang Origin motor bogie. It's lovely and quiet and smooth. It really is. I do like these Dock Authority shunters. I'm going to have to get one, I think. So I put the body shell back on, and then I go through my spare screws, and I do find a screw with a concave head which actually fit that perfectly. It was a more modern Hornby one, but it fit and secured the body shell to the chassis. Now, as I said, I do like these big bulky diesels. I may have to get myself one and see if I can fit it to a modern DCC ready chassis and upgrade the buffers, give it a beefy look. But I do like these. I've always wanted one, and it's one thing I've never got, because when I started out I wasn't confident enough to convert them to digital or whatever. But I might have to give it a go now. I do like these. You could do so much with it. Detail the cab up, glaze it, new buffers, you name it, it could be done. And they are relatively cheap. But this one in mint in box is the best one of this I've ever seen. If you've got an engine or anything you'd like to see repaired or DCC fitted, featured on the channel, please email me at dansmodelrailways@gmail.com. Have a look at getting it sent over, and who knows, it may even feature an episode all of its own. So I'll leave you now with the shunter hauling a load of vans around the Trainsfuse test layout. On the day I visited Trainsfuse, it was quite busy. So I have removed the background noise because it was quite loud. There was a lot of people chatting. So I'll leave you it running around with the vans with the background music playing over the top. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye for now.